Welcome back once more. This is Inside Politics. The executive and judiciary are once again locked in a fierce tussle on separation of powers. Chief Justice David Maraga has dismissed President Uhuru Kenyatta's executive order, saying the judiciary will not be subjected to it. The order, signed Wednesday evening, issued in January, dated May 11th, thus the date was revised, is titled The Organization of Government and Regularizes Changes in Government. The Law Society of Kenya has also gotten into it, preparing to go to court to challenge the order that places independent constitutional commissions under direct control of the Office of the Attorney General and Cabinet Secretaries. KTN political reporter Jeff Kirui has more.
Chief Justice David Maraga has expressed his displeasure following a move by President Uhuru Kenyatta to place independent commissions, among them the Judicial Service Commission, under state departments. In a statement to newsrooms, Maraga says the judiciary is neither a ministry nor a government department which can be organized by an executive order. But Attorney General Kihara Kariuki says the concerns by Chief Justice Maraga are premised on a misunderstanding. In his response, Kariuki says nothing in the executive order is intended to undermine any independent arm of government or institution. And by listing the independent commissions under the Office of the Attorney General, the executive order seeks to provide clarity to ministries and government departments on their responsibilities with respect to necessary and inevitable interagency linkages and liaisons.
They need to word better their executive order. They need to remove any appearance of having authority over independent offices and constitutional commissions, and where they just want to indicate that a certain ministry of the government will be coordinating or will be communicating with that independent office, and there needs to be clarity that that is what they are doing.
The move in the executive order to list functions of JSC and judiciary ruffling feathers, with CJ Maraga protesting that the order cannot purport to assign functions to the Judicial Service Commission or its chairman, who in this case is the Chief Justice.
The optics is bad. The optics is terrible. The optics needs to change because it gives the impression that the president has authority over assigning roles and functions to constitutional commissions and to independent arms of government.
The Law Society of Kenya has already moved to court seeking to have the executive order suspended. LSK argues that the executive order is unlawful by subjecting independent constitutional commissions under the authority of the Attorney General. Jeff Kirui, KTN News.
All right, an executive order number 1 of 2020. It was issued in January this year. It was revised in May, that is last month. It has brought a lot of mixed reactions, a lot of discussions really, but I want us to focus on the issue of separation of powers. We have seen that reaction from the Attorney General, but from the Chief Justice rather. The Attorney General has responded to that, dismissing that outburst by the CJ, saying the President has all the rights to issue such an executive order. Let me begin with you, Kenneth Chesa. What was your reaction to that executive order?
Ben, I think the executive order issued in January 2020 and revised by the President last week has generated a necessary heat and discussion as to the independence of institutions. We must understand as a nation that an executive order has no legal force whatsoever, and we must make reference to our sources of law as a country. We have a document called the Judicature Act in this country, which outlines what our sources of law are. And the first source, the supreme source of our law, is our Constitution, followed by Acts of Parliament, followed by the substance of common law and doctrines of equity, then Acts of General Application in England in force on 12th of August 1898. And then the traditional customary law. Therefore, the independence of our institutions is secured by the Constitution. For as long as the Constitution has not been amended to interfere with that independence, it stays. And independence occurs at 2 levels. First is decisional independence, and on decisional independence, the judiciary is not answerable to anyone. It does not take orders from any quarter in performance of its duties. And then secondly, where the president ought to have exploited is the second level of independence called institutional independence and interdependence. When it comes to institutional interdependence, these three arms of government, parliament, executive, and the judiciary, depend on each other to an extent. And the president would have argued that in coordinating the affairs, these interdependence, then I have placed this arm of government called the judiciary under the Attorney General's office for better coordination. There is nothing to worry. The president cannot purport to arrogate himself the power to change the constitution and interfere with the independence of the judiciary through a back document called an executive order.
All right. Do you agree? And there's this debate that has been fronted that the President Uhuru Kenyatta administration has been clawing at the other arms of government, trying to usurp their powers. There's somebody who has alluded to Parliament, for example, the whipping up that has been ongoing with the Jubilee Party, whipping its members into order in the National Assembly and the Senate. And we have seen other political parties coalescing around the Jubilee Party, which is now a coalition. And now the executive order purporting to assign roles to the Judicial Service Commission. Do you believe there is an affront on the other arms of government by the Uhuru Kenyatta executive?
Yeah, obviously, that statement is fairly accurate. But going back to the president's order, the only challenge with the president's order is communication, that it was not very clear. The president was very clear on what he wanted to communicate, but I suspect the person who drafted the order did not have a very good clarity. So one even fails to understand why Chief Justice Maraga was up in arms, because that order does not in any way compromise the judiciary or the Judicial Service Commission and all those independent organizations. So maybe what State House needs to do is in future to get people with a very high level of clarity to come out with those orders. And in communications, when you issue a statement, it must never ever be ambiguous. And Willa, who is a teacher at a university, will tell people that he tells students every day that when you're communicating, it must not be ambiguous. That order was ambiguous, so everybody would interpret it the way they want to do, and depending on which political side they do. So maybe the president has got an opportunity to get a team to sort out that matter. But on the issue of invading the independence of the legislature, it's now very clear that the president has got under control of the two houses, Parliament and, National Assembly and the Senate, because of the insurance given to him by Raila Odinga. So as we sit right now, anything he wants done at the National Assembly is going to be done. Anything he wants done at the Senate is going to be done. If you express a divergent opinion, then the whips of the various parties will be called upon and you'll find yourself de-whipped, which in my view is not very good for our democracy, because the 2010 Constitution we keep on celebrating about created room for divergent views, for expression of divergent positions. And when you express a divergent position, you are not supposed to be disciplined in that manner, especially when you're not from the president's political party. If you're from the president's political party, say Jubilee, and you've agreed on a position, then of course you need to dance to that tune. But if you come from another political party and people expect you to dance in a similar manner, right, and you refuse to dance, you must not be punished. Even whatever is happening within Ford Kenya, believe you me, it's not an accident. It's not Wamunyinyi and Eseli Simiu who decided on their own motion that all of a sudden Wetangula is not supposed to be a party leader. There is when you join the dots, when you give it an helicopter view, you see there is a hidden hand. Now the question is the hidden hand President Kenyatta or Raila Odinga or another external force? Okay. And we should encourage democracy in political parties. So if you're going to suffocate political parties, and then you suffocate the Senate, then you suffocate the National Assembly, and we are going towards a referendum, it means that any Kenya wants to express a divergent opinion will be so nervous, will be so worried, they'll never ever open their mouth.
Okay. Kipchumba Karori, your learned junior, Kenneth Chesa, says that it is impossible for the executive to encroach on the powers of the judiciary through what he calls the back door, that is an executive order. Do you agree? And do you believe that separation of powers is under threat?
Ben, whereas I don't agree with the Chesa in principle, you must understand that separation of powers is also about the optics, and it is much about what is seen more than what is said. When you go back to our document, the Constitution of Kenya, President Uhuru Kenyatta derives the power to issue an executive order under Article 133, which states that he has the power to direct and coordinate government ministries and parastatals and agencies. Under the same constitution, under Chapter 10, establishes the judiciary under Article 169, and it establishes the Judicial Service Commission. I don't think if the president has the power to do an executive order which acts and tend to arrogate functions to constitutional bodies, which the Constitution in itself has already arrogated functions to. So to that extent, Ben, the executive order is being ambiguous and it is illegal in that manner. And what it tends to cause is this, Ben. By having the judiciary, the independent Chapter 15 commissions, which we call the independent commissions, and having the tribunals under the Attorney General, an independent outsider, somebody looking at it from a different angle, will think that all these institutions are under the government or are under the executive, which in a natural and ordinary sense should not be the case, because the JSC, Judicial Service Commission, and the judiciary is an independent arm of government getting its budget directly from the Parliament of Kenya. Why don't you ask yourself, why don't we have the Parliamentary Service Commission under the executive order? Do you think it is by design? Do you think it is by accident? No. It is because I think the person who came up with an order had some mischief which he wanted to achieve. Remember, we are currently staring at the problems of the judiciary, and we have a problem with this executive obeying court orders. We have a problem now. We have 41 judges who are supposed to be appointed by the president, but it has not happened. All these, coupled with the issue of disobeying court orders, comes down to the issue that it seems like the executive is trying so hard to swallow and to compromise the judiciary as is in the Constitution 2010. We cannot say that the executive order, whereas in its public notoriety, has no legal effect. That left there will be the right interpretation. The problem is here, Ben. What is the optics that people see is that they see a judiciary that is under the Attorney General chamber, which is in the view of majority of the scholars and all the people who have partaken legal studies, it seems that we are clawing back the independence of the judiciary. And let us not confuse our criticism of the executive order as our position in governmental interdependence. Ben, even in the doctrine of separation of powers, at the apex of that doctrine, there is the doctrine of interdependence, where it is noted that no arm of government in a democracy can operate in exclusion of the other. The executive cannot operate in the exclusion of judiciary, and the two cannot operate in exclusion of the parliament or the legislature. Therefore, we must seek harmony that promotes the model of democracy we have. This being a Republican state, we must live to that. And maybe to add is that an executive order outside the executive, which is well defined under Chapter 9 of our Constitution, the executive order carries no legal value at all to institutions outside those that are envisaged under Chapter 9 of our Constitution, because the judiciary operates under a different realm, because it being an independent body, and Parliament operates differently. So let us make sure that all as we communicate, let us not communicate in a manner that tends to say that the executive is a bigger brother as compared to the two. No, let us make sure that we promote interdependence, and even the linkages we are seeking can be found better in a compromised way, as opposed to us versus them and talking down to the other arms of government.
All right. Mark Bichachi, the executive arm of governments has been flagged for several things, some of which Kipchumba Karori has listed there. There was a promise to revisit. I'm sure you remember that. There was an attempt to cut the budget to the judiciary. There was a refusal by the president to appoint those 41 judges to the Court of Appeal. Then there is this executive order that the CJ Maraga has taken issue with. There would seem to be a pattern here. Do you agree?
Well, Ben, you cannot disagree that where there is smoke, there is a fire, definitely. And the fire here, to me, goes deeper than revisiting. The fire here goes to the apparent miscommunication and lack of alignment between two individuals. And I am tying it down to two individuals. I'm tying it down to Maraga and Uhuru Kenyatta, because when they met, I think it was last December, they gave the country the position and the view that if the two of them can just sit down and talk, then the judiciary and the executive will be okay. But given their two personalities, and specifically Maraga in this perspective, there is a tendency, instead of seeking to discuss issues, they want to bring their issues to the public domain. You remember there was even debate about an S-Class Mercedes, which Maraga was owed. So there's a lot that should not have come to the public. For example, we know, and the lawyers here have made that very, very clear, that executive orders cannot purport to change what the constitutional order is. And therefore, any statement from the executive should be taken as an instruction to the executive and not an instruction to the judiciary. And that is something that I believe should have been corrected between the persons of Justice Maraga and the president. It is not as if they do not have each other's numbers. When we go into the legalese of it all, of course, there's a lot to be questioned. And the issue of how the executive and the judiciary should work together needs to come to the fore. And I'll give you two case in points, okay? Number one, today as we speak in this country, if someone did something horrible in the civil service, you cannot fire them because they'll go to the judiciary, and the judiciary will issue stay orders, and the person will be back in office and will be selling our blood to Mogadishu, as happened to a certain member of the Ministry of Health. At the same time, we have a judiciary that is the weakest link in the fight against corruption. And by the judiciary, I'm not just talking about just the judges, I'm talking about all officers of the court, including the prosecutors. So we have a problem in this country, and instead of solving the problem, what we are doing is we are bickering about non-issues, because Maraga should know, if Uhuru Kenyatta has issued an illegal order, it should not affect the rest of us, because he will not enforce it. It's up to Maraga to say whether it's going to be done or not. But this bickering is not solving the real problems. The real problems of this country is a judiciary that takes too long to answer, to settle judicial matters. It's a judiciary that seems sluggish on the fight against corruption. It is a judiciary where judges purportedly will fly to exotic towns with lovers who are facing cases before them. That's where the real issue is, and that's what needs to be sorted out, and that's what needs to be cleaned. As far as I'm concerned, everything else is just hot noise.
All right. Husband, do you believe it is just a perception crisis, or there's something deeper? And if it's a perception crisis, how dangerous is that?
Well, to a large extent, I think it's a perception crisis, and I think it's very dangerous, because then it makes the public have this misconstrued interpretation of the independence and interdependence of the three arms of government. And you cannot blame anyone for this. It's just what is in the public domain, that if we go back to a few years back and retrace what the president pronounced himself about the judiciary, you cannot blame Kenyans for having that perception. But I don't think we can live in the past. And the judiciary, and especially individuals who are very quick to pronounce the independence of the judiciary and all that, sometimes need to take time and interrogate issues before they expose them to the public through the media, because it doesn't augur well with the functions of the three arms of the government. But I think from where I sit, and an understanding of the separation of power from primary school, which you were taught in GHC, I mean, it's a bit obvious that there is that independence. And that's why the Law Society of Kenya is going to court, and the judiciary can also go to court, and it is for the court to determine. And I don't think the executive would influence the determination of any case affecting the executive in a court of law. In 2013, for instance, I think there were executive orders that were vacated in a court of law. But I think having said that, it's also important to note that in the three arms of government, it is only the executive that initiates policies that lead to development in this country, that change the lives of people. The work of parliament is to provide that legislative framework so that these policies, if they need the law, there is a law that enforces them. And the work of the judiciary is just to ensure that anyone who goes against what has been enacted in parliament is dealt with according to the framework of the law. So who, at the end of the day, in the functioning of the government and these three arms of governance, is responsible to the people? It is only the president. So if there is any lack of clarity in the executive order, it is not something that the judiciary or any other body should make noise about, because ultimately, Kenyans look upon the executive, and the head of the executive is the president. And in his coordination of activities and synergies between the three arms of the government, we should be appreciating the fact that if these three arms of the government are working, then there is a likelihood that the policies that originate from the executive, at given a framework by parliament, would benefit the people. And if there is anything contrary to the public interests, I don't think the executive can weigh in on anyone who takes them to the judiciary, which then will adjudicate. But finally, I think in all this, the role of the media is very critical. We should not just talk about these three arms of the government and interdependence. They actually have a watchdog, and it is incumbent upon the watchdog to tell us to what extent are we talking about this interdependence and independence in a flowed manner. And I think the judiciary is leading the way in helping us understand this interdependence and independence in an interpretation that does not help this country. And just like Mark has said, they need to assert this independence by being very robust in the fight against corruption and in ensuring that the executive and parliament are serving this country judiciously. Have they done that? I don't think they've done that to the expectations of Kenyans.
Then there's an interesting perspective that we need to look at carefully. President Kenyatta is not just a leader of an arm of government. He's the head of state, he's the president of the Republic of Kenya, and more important, is a symbol of national unity. And he cannot behave in a manner which can be either interpreted or be seen to be fighting any other institution, independent institution. For instance, on the issue of the judiciary, if you're not sufficiently schooled and you go through that order, then the impression is created that, in fact, the judiciary works from State House. So the president must clear and correct that perception. He has, for some reason, which has not made public, he has refused to appoint judges, 41 judges. Now, if he has information to the effect that these judges could be accused of, there are allegations, maybe they're criminals, they're rapists, whatever they may have done, why can't he appoint them so that they face the true justice? And even for the political parties, why can't he encourage a multi-party democracy? Because the same constitution that is sought to protect says Kenya must be a multi-party democracy. Why would he allow that during his time political parties start being suffocated, that the judiciary is being suffocated? And I think it's unacceptable for us to pick one issue where the Chief Justice complained about an S-class among a litany of issues, and every time we're making reference to Maraga, we quickly pick on the S-class instead of looking at the human resource, at the human capital, and need of more resources.
Very quickly, Bwana Wakili Ken Echesa, have the final say on this. What would be your scorecard of Attorney General Paul Kihara Kariuki in his role as the advisor to the president?
The Attorney General, Paul Kihara Kariuki, is the chief legal advisor to the executive and to the chief executive, His Excellency the President. But my own honest and objective evaluation of Paul Kihara Kariuki is that he is more executive-minded than the chief executive himself. He is more presidential than the president himself. The office of the Attorney General, Ben, is an independent office. Even though it is within the executive, it is meant to address and cater for the public good. It has previously been used as a puppet to implement and advise the president in line of his thoughts. I call upon the Attorney General to do his job judiciously, to act objectively, and advise the president independently. It would have been the Attorney General who would have come out to explain to Kenyans, just as Mark and Dismas are saying, and Mr. Wheeler is saying, AG should explain to Kenyans that this executive order in print seems to be saying this, but in reality, it does not attempt to claw back or to interfere with the functioning of the judiciary. But the AG is quick to come and defend one side called the executive and justify the existence of that paper.
Fair enough. Thank you for that. Let's leave it there for now. Let's take another quick commercial break here on Inside Politics on KTN News. Don't go too far. We're back for one final round. And when we come back, we shall be expecting to hear from you with your views, questions, and comments on what we're talking about today. Stay with us.